But you see, people have been telling me, and telling you if you're involved in prophecy discussions, well, this thing that John teaches and that guys like him teach about the rapture happening before the tribulation. This whole idea of a rapture wasn't even taught until 1820 by J.N. Darby. Anybody hear that or aware of that? And it's something that's new. And Darby got it from some little girl, Miss McDonald, and she was kind of epileptic and all sorts of mental problems, and he picked it up from her, and then Darby got this weird idea of a rapture, passed it on ultimately to C.I. Scofield of the Scofield Bible fame, and it kind of became a new teaching that was never known until this Darbyism. I want to read to you something. Very interesting. For many years, post-tribulationists, those that believe the church is going to go through the tribulation, and amillennialists, which means they don't even believe in a rapture at all, have claimed that the pre-tribulation viewpoint is a recent teaching from the 1800s. Many claim this lack of teaching by the early forefathers of the church indicates it's not a valid teaching because it would have been written down in church writings. Well, that's changed. Listen to this. Quote, "For all the saints and elect of God are gathered prior to the tribulation that is to come, and are taken up to be with the Lord, lest they see the confusion that is to be overwhelming in the world because of sins." Written by Ephraim the Syrian in the year A.D. 373. The early Christian poet and writer Ephraim the Syrian, who lived from 306 A.D. to 373, was a major theologian of early Byzantine Eastern Church. He was born in the Roman province of Syria near present-day Edessa, Turkey. Ephraim displayed a profound love of the Scriptures in his writings, as illustrated by several written commentaries about him. The work of Nathaniel Ladar says, quote, "I esteem no man more happy than him who diligently reads the Scriptures delivered to us by the Spirit of God, and thinks how he may order his lifestyle by the precepts of them." To this day, Ephraim the Syrian's hymns and homily sermons are used in the liturgy of the Greek Orthodox Church. Ephraim's text revealed a very clear statement about the pre-tribulational return of Christ. Pre-trib rapture, before the tribulation, before the tribulation, rapture, the snatching up, to take his elect, that's you and me, home to heaven to escape the coming tribulation. In addition, Ephraim declares his belief in a personal Jewish Antichrist who will rule the Roman Empire during the last days, and a rebuilt temple, and 2 witnesses, and a literal tribulation, great tribulation, lasting 1,260 days. Note, he also taught the war of Gog and Magog, Ezekiel 38:39, would precede the tribulation period. In a text that he wrote called the Book of the Cave Treasure, he revealed that Daniel's 70th week will be fulfilled in the final 7 years at the end of this age. The following section have been translated by Cameron Rhodes of Tyndall Theological Seminary. Now here, listen to what he said. This is a guy writing in 373. Quote, "Most dearly beloved, believe the Holy Spirit who speaks in us. Now we have spoken before because the end of the world is near. The consummation remains. We ought to understand, therefore, my brothers, what is imminent. That is, all saints and the elect of the Lord shall be gathered together in the clouds before the tribulation which is about to come, and are taken to the Lord in the sky, in order that they may not see at any time the confusion which overwhelms the world because of sin. And so," he says, "brothers, most dear to me, at the end of this world will come a harvest, and angels, and armed and prepared, holding sickles in their hands, awaiting the kingdom of the Lord. But when the time of abomination, of desolation, begins to approach, that's the Antichrist going into the temple, he takes the empire. Therefore, when he receives the kingdom, he orders the temple of God to be rebuilt for himself, which is in Jerusalem, Antichrist, who, after coming into it, he shall sit as God, and order that he be adored by all nations. Then all people from everywhere shall flock together to him at the city of Jerusalem. The holy city shall be trampled on by nations for 42 months, 3.5 years, just as the holy apostle says. In these 3.5 years, the heavens shall suspend its dew. There shall be no rain upon the earth. There shall be a great tribulation, as there has never been since people began to be upon the earth. And no man shall buy or sell grain of the fall harvest, unless he is one who has the serpentine sign on his forehead or in his hand. And when the 3.5 years have been completed, the time of Antichrist, through which he will have seduced the world, after the resurrection of the two prophets, the two witnesses, in which the hour which the world does not know, and the day which the enemy or son of perdition does not know, will come the sign of the Son of Man. The coming forward, the second coming forward of the Lord shall appear with great power, much majesty, in a sign that the whole world is going to see. Then Christ shall come. The enemy shall be thrown into confusion. The Lord will destroy him by the spirit of his mouth. And the enemy shall be bound and plunged into the abyss of everlasting fire with his father Satan. And all people who do Satan's wishes shall perish with him. But the righteous shall inherit everlasting life. And on it goes. Ephraim the Syrian. I won't take the time I was going to, but it's late and we're tired. But suffice it to say, he talks with great specificity, great length, about the coming of the Antichrist into a rebuilt temple, the battle of Armageddon underway. But before that happens, the Lord gathers his children up to meet with him in the clouds and takes them home. That's in the year 320. So those that say, my goodness, this idea of the rapture didn't surface until 1820, have not done their homework. And it's not just Ephraim the Syrian. In 150 AD, the rapture was preached by the shepherd of Hermes, a famous writer, pastor from the year 150. In 270, Victorinus, the bishop of Petau, preached the rapture of the church. In 350, Ephraim the Syrian, whom I just read a bit from. In 400, Jerome in the Latin Vulgate. Then there were the Dark Ages. And during the Dark Ages, it's true, the rapture wasn't taught, but nothing was taught. It was a paganized, putrid time. But when the Dark Ages were over, in 304, Reverend Dolcino preached and wrote extensively on the pre-trib rapture. In 400, Bible translations in native tongues led to a new understanding of the pre-trib rapture. 1627, Joseph Mady. 1627, Increase Mather, father of Cotton Mather. 1687, Peter Giroux. 1700, John Askill. 1748, John Gill, whom I know a lot of you guys read their stuff. 1763, James McKnight. 1744, Morgan Edwards. 1792, Thomas Scott. 1830, John Darby. John Darby didn't start this thing. He comes from a long line going clear back to 150 AD. So those that tell you such things, and they do, well, the rapture was not really taught by anybody like you guys teach it until 1820 with J.N. Darby, and popularized by C.I. Scofield with the Scofield Bible Notes. Those guys, frankly, are drinking their bathwater. Because if you look at what Ephraim the Syrian wrote at great length, you couldn't be more specific, more exacting about the rapture, the appearing of Antichrist, the rebuilding of the temple, the whole scenario. And he wasn't even the first of the ancient church writers, so-called, that came after the epistles, the apostles.